means they
Right.
won't have enough money to save.
Right. So, like, do you have the link to that video? Because we can hear that.
On YouTube. I can send it to you if you want.
Awesome sauce. Awesome sauce. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Leon Block. It's your guy, John Tell, here with our guest, Matt, up from Massachusetts. Tell him what's going on, Matt. How you doing today?
Doing all right today. How are you guys? Just, glad to be part of a movement for progress, for liberation, and for peace in the end.
Right. Yeah, we have hard discussions sometimes, but really much needed discussions. And we were just talking in the group about a number of things. But you started the conversation off really talking about a video you saw. So you might as well just go ahead and get into that.
Yeah, let me see if I can find this video real quick. I might have to pop out of the stream and pop back in and send the video to them.
Not a problem. We'll go ahead and take a break real quick.
All right. 1 second.
Bones, culture of thrones, set ablaze by the majority. Tired of complacency, ready for the anarchy, because what's left to lose? Everything is lost. Time to turn to the new. Stand in your ground, hold it. Man-made earthquakes shake their foundation of centuries of colonies. Time for erasure of stains. Questions.
Yo, welcome back, everyone. We are going to get into the video that Matt sent us. If you work in America, you will wish you watched this before December.
Incomes do not keep pace with the cost of living. Our monthly bills only get higher and higher, and our quality of life is on a steady decline. It almost feels like, despite all of the effort, the American dream is totally out of the reach of most Americans. And the worst part of it is that the vast majority of us will probably have to work until we die. The worsening retirement crisis blocking the United States means that over half of the population will never be able to hang their work hats up to relax and to enjoy their senior years. And many of those who do retire face the risk of falling into poverty in old age as they run out of funds and Social Security benefits fail to provide an adequate safety net for everyone. On top of that, given that the price of pretty much everything we buy and consume on a daily basis continues to reach one record high after the other, and the fact that 61% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, it's never been harder for U.S. workers to start saving for retirement. In other words, today's cost of living crisis will be tomorrow's retirement crisis, and all of us are going to be dramatically affected by it. That's what we're going to expose today. For years, we've been warned that our country was marching toward a retirement crisis of epic proportions, but still nothing has been done to effectively prevent things from getting worse, and conditions have become increasingly more difficult for U.S. workers to have the chance to put a percentage of their incomes aside for the future. The truth is that our retirement system is broken, and at this point,
we are all slaves, y'all. We're all slaves.
Did you know that nearly 40% 40% of all American workers have absolutely nothing saved for
Slave
retirement.
for labor.
40%. And did you know that pension funds in the United States are currently underfunded by about $6 trillion? The numbers are absolutely mind blowing. It's getting crystal clear that our society simply does not have the resources necessary to keep all of the promises that have been made to us. The baby boom generation poses a unique challenge for our society because they represent a huge demographic bubble that has fundamentally altered our culture
Yep.
as they passed through each stage of
Yep.
life.
Yep.
Now they are retiring in extremely large numbers, and many of the baby boomers are completely unprepared for retirement. Of course, most of those coming after them are not preparing for retirement either, and the fear over what will happen to the country when Generation X joins baby boomers at retirement age
Yep.
continues to grow. Even when everything was going well, inflation was non existent, interest rates were low, stocks were skyrocketing. We still had a multi-trillion-dollar savings shortfall, but then we faced the worst global health emergency of the century. A conflict between two of the world's largest commodity producers has begun.
Yep.
Inflation hit sky highs all over the planet, and now the largest economies are experiencing the fastest rate hiking cycle since the early 1980s, as well as the threat of a severe recession. All of that resulted in catastrophic losses across financial markets, and many households have been completely wiped out in recent months. According to the Boston College's Center for Retirement Research, the market turmoil erased some 3.
Hold on. I've got to pause this quick and let's catch up and have some commentary because let's talk about like this so-called war on Ukraine. I feel like that is a small proxy war brought on to establish a new tone so that we can have a World War III, so that we can continue to chip away at the human race, or the race that the group of people they want to be working. The kings became the CEOs. That's essentially what it is, and
Exactly.
they have control on us. Go ahead.
In a way, with this Russia-Ukraine crisis, we're going to spend billions and billions of dollars, while Americans like ourselves are not going to have what we need to get by because we're funding all these other wars.
Honestly, fuck us when it comes to that thing, because the rest of the world, the rest of the global south and the Middle East are going to basically all poor black and brown people across the world are going to go into famine if they already aren't. And in 2023, it's going to be of astronomical proportions, and no one's doing anything about it. Still, Africa, sub-Saharan, excuse me, global South countries are raising the alarm, and they're coming at global North countries, especially European powers, when it comes to like reparations. And if people are not aware, like former countries that were formerly colonies of France, for them to be quote unquote free or independent countries, they still have to pay a tax back to France. Okay, they're still paying. They pay for France to be what it is, right? It's just been that way, and the world has never been upset about it. These African countries, I don't know, for whatever reason they did it. Well, they've had enough, and I think they also realize that like China has risen.
Yep.
China has risen. And I think that's where they want the war to be. And if that is the case, the US will lose. I really think so.
We'll fund
Um,
it too, because
it,
that's
it,
exactly how it always goes.
and
Anyway,
why I say that is because if China rises up to the US, the rest of the world will rise up with China against the US.
wow.
We've got so many people that really don't like the capitalist model, but they go along with it because they've got this big bully looming over them saying, you better like capitalism. And how many countries have tried in some way to institute some level of communism or socialism, and it's failed because of corporate interests and capitalist interests, and Western powers, global North powers coming in and toppling it before it even gets up on its feet truly.
Exactly.
Or they kill the people who are trying to institute that system or systems. So, we really haven't had a chance to fully see in present day and modern times if any of these systems truly do work. But we've had more than theories to prove that it can. They just don't give us a chance because they know that it'll work. Capitalism does not work. Capitalism needs poverty to
Mm-hmm.
survive.
Yep.
Without poverty, there cannot be any capitalism. Chaz,
Without
Chaz,
without a lower class to use and abuse, how would capitalism survive?
it won't. To be honest, I think feudalism was better than fucking capitalism.
At this point, I do too.
Chaz said, "Do you think NATO will accept Ukraine in?"
Hmm. It's a good question.
I've seen videos. I've seen videos saying yes, and I've seen videos saying that they'll continue to remain close. But okay, so feudalism is the system that we had before capitalism. Capitalism was built off of slaves. When slaves were brought over during the transatlantic slave trade, it's essentially what created capitalism in the way that we know it today. Commodities were sold, and how do we explain capitalism? Uh, Feudalism is when you had like your kings, your queens, and you had your peasants.
That you have a lower class that gets basically next to nothing, so that the people above them can get paid and survive. Quite literally, that's the way I've always believed it to be.
Feudalism is the dominant social system that took place in medieval Europe, in which the nobility, like kings and queens, held lands from the crown in exchange for military service, and the vassals were in turn tenants of the nobles. So that's where you had your peasants. They lived, they were obliged to live on the lord's land, and they gave them work, they gave them a home to use, and they gave them a share of the crops that they worked for. And so they were kept safe from any invading forces that came into their lands. The military and your kings are there to protect you. That's the way they made it seem like you were safe as long as you worked for me. But guess what? These people worked when they felt like it. They worked when they felt like it, and they worked way less than we do today under capitalism. And
If
to be
you look,
honest, go
if
ahead.
you look at the old days, back when slavery was actually a thing, like actual slavery, if you notice, the white colonizers were lazy and they would make the slaves work for them. That's the example of capitalism right there. That's a perfect example of literally having
Capitalism exploits. Capitalism is not sustainable. It exploits the human body as a commodity. Everything in the world is a commodity. It's not valued. But
Yep.
it's ironic that capitalism has no value. It makes everything in the world valuable in some way. It turns it into it puts a price on everything.
And puts a price on everything and makes the workers pretty much worthless.
Exactly. And feudalism was and I'm not saying feudalism was good, but feudalism still put value into people and things and the environment in a sense. Capitalism is what the Industrial Revolution, after and during slavery as well, like that also had a big part. Well, the Industrial Revolution is what kickstarted capitalism, honestly. The slave trade, and then the Industrial Revolution in Europe.
Better.
Them having, and that's another thing a lot of people don't realize is why Europe were the people to bring in, usher in capitalism and slavery. It's because Europe, all they had was metals to make weapons of mass destruction, whether it was the guns, bullets from guns, or whether it was swords, they were able to make weapons that were more durable because of the natural resources that they had. And once they used all their resources up, what did they do? They went other places and took over places with their superior weapons, because other places didn't have those kinds of resources. They had other kind of resources like gold and spices, and they did have metals too. They still have metals, obviously, because we're mining out of Africa. We're gutting Central Africa of metals today. But we also, in Africa, there's like an infinite amount of resources. Like there's so many resources in Africa. Here we are like 400, 500 years later, and we're still mining resources from Africa bit by bit and still gutting it. Europe didn't have it like that, and so they needed to dominate to be able to get the things that they want, even though they are still the minority when it comes to racial stereotypes or whatever in the world. Getting a little off track, but yeah, feudalism. There's a book that I'm seeing here called Feudalism to Capitalism, Peasant and Landlord in Development. Huh.
I like that they called them peasants because I mean, back in the day, that term was used when technically the nation was a little bit more of a by the people for the people thing, where
Right.
because people don't realize this, but before the creation of both political parties, this was a nation by the people for the people. People went into village squares and gathered their entire communities, and everybody would weigh in on social issues. Everyone. Ever since the creation of political parties, they eradicated that. And I think that's part of the problem, is I feel like the people don't have as much power as they should in our society.
Oh yeah.
Because we're propagandized and like at birth and through childhood going through school to believe that this is a nation by the people and for the people, and that there's liberty and justice for all. And then once you get older and turn into an adult, you're like, wow, why are so many people getting screwed over by the government?
Mm-hmm.
Quite literally. That's how I felt.
So Matt, when you have a chance, check out, this was a podcast that I did back in 2020, 2021 with a friend of mine, Bamzino, and we called it Anarchist Newsletter. And we talked about historical anarchists and how they changed the system. Emma Voltairine, Voltairine de Cleyre and Emma Goldman were two women who really defined. They were part of the women's rights movement, but it was more or less just workers' rights in the world, and the people who held the power and how they controlled the masses, and what we needed to do about it, more so than just women's rights. And same thing with Lucy Parsons. She was a woman of color, but she downplayed that in order to prop up the overall message that she was trying to put. And then Martin Sastry was an African-American anarchist who was from Buffalo and was sentenced to prison, falsely accused, because he was spreading the good message to everyone, but he was more so empowering Black people with the knowledge that they needed to be able to be smarter than the government and the world that we live in. And of course, the government didn't like that.
What that makes me think of something.
Yeah.
Frederick Douglass, one of my favorite abolitionists of history.
Yes. Talk about it.
One of his favorite quote was, "Knowledge makes a Black man unfit to be a slave."
Talk about it.
Basically saying, if you can observe the world around you and just not judge it firsthand and learn about how it is, you'll know everything. Yep. Observation. Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave, because the more you learn, the less that they can oppress you with.
Knowledge is power.
Truth. Knowledge is power.
Speaking of knowledge, go check out that podcast because you'll learn a lot. Not you too, but for the viewers watching, go check out that podcast right now. It is very educational, but we really dig deep. and keep it also light for y'all in a way that you can understand. And just it's a nice vibe. So definitely go check it out, y'all.
I'm definitely checking it out myself too. It looks pretty interesting.
No, yeah, it is. It is. I wish we could have kept it going, but we can always have a new incarnation of it here on the Leon Block. You're always welcome to do a show of it. You know what I mean? Talk about revolutionaries and how certain people change the trajectory of human history in the sense of like how we are controlled by the masses and the powers that be, and how we need to combat this system and so on and so forth.
Are you about to end the stream?
No, I'm not.
All right.
No, not at all. I just got some visuals up for people right now. No, we only 20 minutes in, so we're good.
All right, I got you. I just wasn't sure because I seen those visuals. But one thing I really wanted to say about that quote from Frederick Douglass is put it in relation to our daily lives. Now, think about this for a minute. In 2020, when George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin, if we never seen the body cam footage for that, if nobody, if we had never seen the cell phone video footage of the incident, we would have never known that it had even occurred. First of all,
talk about it, Chaz. Talk about it, Matt.
That ties in entirely with Frederick Douglass, because knowledge made us unfit to be a slave, because us seeing it for ourselves with our own two eyes and the pain that it caused us, the government was not able to fool us into making us think that year that law enforcement can always protect you. And it proved it right there for everyone, which is why the entire world got outraged. And speaking of 2020 and George Floyd, I think the world, I think America should be paying attention right now to what's going on in Iran. Because in theory, when George Floyd died, it outraged not just the United States, but the entire world. And now there are things going on in the world that are kind of almost reminiscent of what happened to George Floyd.
Yep.
And they're rioting. They're taking space up in the streets right now. They're causing havoc because they're angry with good reason, because somebody was murdered because they didn't want to adhere to a certain political regime and wear a hijab. So I just feel like that's something that at some point.
About it. No, Chaz. No, things have changed, Chaz. That's the thing. Things have changed dramatically in the world. And you know what changed? We got ushered in to a state that we're actually getting set back in some ways, except that George Floyd taught us to be more keen, to get up on our feet and look and open our eyes and not be blind. There are a lot of people who are going ahead forcefully through willfully blind because now they've been woken up, but they want to go back to just making money and eating and shitting and getting fat and eating a bunch of sugar because they now know what we're at the edge, we're at the precipice of destruction. They know this and they're scared, so they go willfully blind. Like you said, it's the blind following the blind. That is exactly what it is. They are scared, so they're burying their heads back in the sand and they want to go back to work. They don't want to fight this system. But guess what? We have small little bits of people that are combating this system and are waking up. Why do we have all these workers rising up for their own rights? They are tired of it. They're tired of stressing over the past 2 years of the bullshit that they've been going through. They lost a family member. They've been busting their ass, working their ass off for what? They can't even go buy a fucking gallon of milk and not be stressed about it, or how they're going to get to work with the little bit of money that they have left. And we're going into winter, and the rest of the world is about to go into famine. What are we going to do? The energy of the world is unbalanced and it's stressed. I'm sorry, I'm ranting, but
just wait for the price of fuel too, because that's about to go up.
Yep. Not to mention, let's talk about real quick Germany and that Nord Stream pipeline and Russia cutting off their gas to, you know what I mean? Like, that's a whole big thing too. I feel like that's going to affect us in a number of ways. Where's Europe going to get their oil from? The system, I feel, doubled down, Chaz. That's like what I was getting at about what changed since 2020. It ushered in an excuse and justification for them to double down, and we fell into that trap. What are we going to do about it now?
You want to know what I think about it? I think that in 2020, people had woken up because they seen what happened to George Floyd. And all across the world, people started waking up because they've seen that authority in and of itself could not protect us. And that's something that woke everybody up. But in 2021, after the system started breaking, on both sides, mind you, it's not just the left, it's not just the right that it's breaking on the left too. That's a discussion that needs to be talked about. It's breaking on both sides. It's like a faucet. We kept smashing it. Now it's leaking. It's a leaky faucet now. And what happens is people that have believed in government their entire lives to keep them safe and provide them security, they spoke out with us in 2020. And then in 2021, as they realized the system was breaking, they felt like they needed that security. So they went back to adhering and obeying the government again.
Exactly.
Yep. Because they felt unsafe. Because they felt unsafe. I mean, let's be honest. The government on both sides create so much propaganda to make people fear everything around them.
Talk about it.
They need this clutch to hold on to. And then they see it. They're like, well, I don't want to fall down because we need someone to help us. But they're propagandized, or they've been propagandized through generations to understand that the government is always going to be there for you.
And we'll get into that in a second too. Before we get back to this video, and Chad says because people still believe police protect and serve when all we really see in real life is them. Duck and swerve. Yo, talk about it,
that's
bro.
Exactly.
That's the greatest example in a microcosm of what we're dealing with in totality. That is the most tangible example. Yes, that shows that we need some kind of security blanket to keep us an excuse to be blinded, I guess you could say.
2020 taught me to be a humanitarian. And to think about things from a humanitarian sense, not from a political sense, not from.
Now, hold on. What were you just talking about? Because me, you, and Chaz and Dora, shout out to Augur Media, we're having a discussion about a bunch of stuff that kind of kickstarted this.
Mm-hmm. This is probably the most talkative I've been on anyone's streams.
Because we get into some real deep discussions here, and we'll dig deep on things. Chaz said, no obligations to protect the public. They don't. They literally don't. And people don't realize that.
Yeah, and people also don't realize that America is one giant business, and they're just part of it. It's a corporation. They're just part of it. It's classified
as a corporation, literally. People think we live in a country. We live in a corporation.
They do. They get paid to do what they do, and obviously they take lives, and that's been seen throughout time. So I mean, technically, if they're getting paid to do what they do, and they're killing people, isn't that like paid contract killers?
Yeah, and we also have those to we do those in the rest of the world. That's where war comes from. That's how we make our money, is war. And we don't do it by our own military anymore. We send out contracted killers, groups of people that may have had some kind of military or police backing and experience, but they're not real, you know what I mean? They're paid and they're mercenaries. They just go killing people. And then that entails plausible deniability. So the U.S. is left out of it because them as a country are not participating in wars, but they just promote it on mainstream media as, oh, there's these conflicts going on in this poor, impoverished country. No, you're keeping them poor and impoverished by bringing these mercenaries in and then going in and toppling their fucking government. We do this time and time and time again and tell our own people that we're superior and we're the best and we protect you. The fuck?
And guess what pays for all of that?
Us. We do.
Our tax money. Our
Yep.
tax money. Yep.
We work to pay for them to kill and demolish the world.
Yep. Our tax money pays for oppression, not only in our country, but in other countries too. Oh,
If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
look at last year when they had police harassing and beating Palestinian people.
Oh, they still are.
What paid for all that? Obviously, everyone working and their tax dollars. That's
Um,
what that's what the government has literally tied us into without
we
us knowing. Without
we
us knowing, we're starting to find out. We're starting to understand it. The government has tied us into working to think that we're making a living for just ourselves. No, we're making a living for them too, and all the oppression they want to force on us and other countries.
talk about it.
Yep, it's true.
There has been 41 murders of Palestinian children by Israeli forces this year alone. These cold-blooded murders are crimes against humanity, and that is via Claudio Webb, who is a British uh, correspondent. But this is what I see on my timeline or my feed on Twitter all the time. I am constantly seeing news about Palestine. And what Israeli forces are doing, and it's sad that here the way that it's spun is ridiculous, and us independent media entities are constantly having to push back at mainstream's narrative about how we're supposed to, quote unquote, supposed to see the rest of the world, especially countries or entities such as Israel, because I don't see.
While they put their blinders on for half the country, we got
Yep.
open window to the truth.
Yep.
Yep.
Talk about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, man. This is something that I'm gonna go back to the video in a minute. I just wanted to show something else. That's total. That's not just children. 164 Palestinians have been murdered by Israeli occupation forces or settlers this year. Or settlers. And when they say settlers, they mean that Israelis are just walking into someone's home and saying, "You got to go. This is my place now," and the government is supporting it. Mm-hmm. So they can walk up if you're a Palestinian and some Israeli wants your home and your property, they can walk up into your home, kill you if you don't want to leave your own home, or anyone in your family, and the government supports it.
Yeah,
they don't get charged.
It's all division by design to make sure that we never unite. Like literally.
But if we speak out on behalf of Palestinians getting murdered or this situation happening, we're all of a sudden anti-Semitic. That's the equivalent. That's the equivalent of Breonna Taylor getting killed in her home, right? And us defending her and them calling us racist. Yep. The government calling us racist because we defend Breonna Taylor. That is the equivalent. But no one wants to talk about that, though.
True, though. Talk about it. I mean, the truth of the matter is we've been so focused on everything that goes on in their country, we're eventually going to have to tackle the problems that go on in other countries, too, because we're all technically united on this.
They're all the same shit.
Planet Earth. We're all human beings on planet Earth. So, I mean, we're all supposed to matter to each other in that sense. And if you want to save generations, it's not just generations of Americans that you want to save, it's generations of other countries too. It's not just our problem, it's the world problem. It's a world problem because it was created by our tax money that the government forced us to pay for and didn't tell us that they were doing all this. Now we know. The question is, what do we do about it? I just think to myself, every day I wake up, whoever goes to work is paying for this crap. You know, it's sad.
Mm-hmm. That's insane. He approached her. They just fucked with this girl for no reason. It's so sad. Like,
Yeah,
see,
and
it's like, this is my timeline. Constantly, it's all about Palestine constantly.
we have to take it for granted that we're able to go out and film and get like the clear picture of things and put it on social media and stuff. Because in some countries, if you go and do that, they'll just arrest you just for getting the word out.
Yep, you just being there, the wrong place at the wrong time. They will arrest you and fuck with you. This is the constant terror that Palestinians are dealing with 24/7.
Oh, did you hear that the Iranian police threatened Masa Amini's family and arrested one of the first families to report
What's that?
on? I said, did you hear that the Iranian government and police threatened Masa Amini's family?
Yes, I did hear about that.
And that I saw a whole documentary about an activist who was actually born in Iran and has been fighting in the protests out there.
Speaking about Iran right now, this is how innocent. This is how terrorist regime is killing innocent people on the streets of Iran right now.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
We thought our problems were bad. We kill people just for standing up out there. People die for their freedom out there, fighting for it. Like, just imagine if all this crap had been happening in America, if it was as bad here as it is there.
They're literally trying to just get their people who was just killed, a young man who was just shot, and the forces of Israeli forces come in. Like, this is daily. Palestinians have to deal with this.
Yep.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get back into this video because we did a huge pivot, but it's still a part of the overall theme. So,
and those technologies include things like artificial intelligence, 3D printing, robotics, big data, and then some things on the sort of life sciences front in terms of genetics and medical imaging. And that these things are sort of combining in a way that's bringing about a host of transformative changes across industries. I would describe the fourth industrial revolution actually quite similarly to how I would describe the past three, and that is technology that leads to massive gains in productivity. And massive gains in productivity mean substantial improvements to everyone.
What he's failing to tell us is that this excludes us.
One's quality of life.
The world has been through revolutions before. The advent of mechanization, then electronics, then the digital revolution, all profoundly changed the world's economies. But this revolution could be even more disruptive.
I think in previous revolutions, you could really talk about them as industrial revolutions. What was changing was how things were made, factories, industry, often heavy industry in particular. Here you're seeing transformation across really a whole range of not just industry, but services and the creation of whole new business models that didn't exist before.
What's different a little bit about this particular revolution is that it gets into a whole range of things that people only thought were ever only possible for humans to do. Jobs that were human jobs before aren't going to be human jobs anymore.
At the heart of this fourth revolution is artificial intelligence, the ability of machines to match and perhaps one day surpass the cognitive ability of their human creators.
What's happening now is a big deal. it is making a big difference in the way people live, the way people interact with each other. It is sort of obliterating distance. It is, in some cases, removing humans from tasks that we once thought were the sole province of the human mind. These analytic tasks that we thought only a human brain could do, we're suddenly finding that algorithms can do, that machines can do.
These are early days in the brave new world of artificial intelligence, but the potential benefits are vast.
What are some of the liberating benefits of artificial intelligence? There are actually a lot. If you think about something just like driverless cars, autonomous vehicles, which is one use of AI that people are talking about, that could have a really liberating impact on a lot of people's lives. If you think about older people.
Can I be real with you for a minute?
Yeah, this is really scary.
I got a question for you. If technology, if the future of technology was in the hands of a black man, do you think it would have been used to control us?
Right. Fuck no. They would abolish it. They would bury it and get rid of it and enforce their own system, which is, I'm sure, what happened because, with Nikola Tesla, they did that simply because he was in America. He was an immigrant. He wasn't Anglo-Saxon, So imagine what they would have did with the technology to a black man. None of that technology would have been made public at all, and that person's name would have never seen the light of day. At least we know about Tesla.
They would have seen right through what would happen in the future with it.
Oh,
and that's part of the reason why I say that is because I feel like, technology would have been a great thing advancing if it wasn't in the wrong hands. And oftentimes when it's in the wrong hands in history, it's always been someone that's Caucasian.
Yep. Agreed.
Let's just be honest here.
Couldn't agree more. This is the world that we live in, a world where the power is held in the hands of the few, and they keep us conquered and divided amongst each other, bickering about things that actually don't matter. We're all going through the same thing in some different way. They give us different levels of oppression to make us think that we're all different. They give us different ideologies to think about so that we're kept separate. The parties. But
you can imagine what life was like when segregation was legal.
Imagine what life was like under feudalism, where you didn't have parties such as Republicans and Democrats. So it was easy for people to unite.
Yep.
They all had common interests like food, clothing, and shelter. We do too. But they don't want to talk about that
process.
There's like jealous of the next person's stuff. That's why we live in individualist society.
Yep,
it's crazy.
It is. Once you start thinking about it and realizing how divided we are, where the division lines lie, it really makes more sense to you.
Yeah. I'm gonna put the video here that you sent into the comment section for people to check out.
Sure.
And then we will take a quick break because it's important for y'all to understand that it is all about independent media. We bring it to you real and raw, and we are here to inform you of the ills of the world. We are not going to sugarcoat anything or make any mistake about it. America, wake up. So let's get back a little bit into this episode. Oh crap. Volume. There we go.
But those cities are either going to get bigger or there's going to be more of them. So I think that's going to be a trend. And I think a lot of emerging markets, especially those with large populations, are going to experience trends like that in the next 50.
He talks about it with such enthusiasm and vigor as if it's supposed to be a good thing for us people. What do you think, Matt?
I've always wondered about that, like all these advertisements and TV commercials that I've seen throughout my life,
Right.
where these people talk so nonchalantly about like really, terrible things that are happening to people. It just made me think. It's like this really is a society where you're lied to, and you're lied to in a way that it makes it seem like the lie is true, like the lie is true.
I think they give it to us in a way that they try to make lies fun and sassy in a way that we're supposed to love them, not loathe them.
This is why
And
I've always wanted. This is why I've always wanted and thought about this. Is I've always wanted to make like TV commercials that are like basically anti the system, basically the
right.
exact opposite of what he's talking about, but making it into an actual commercial where you can get like
Ooh,
money from it.
yeah, we've
You
got to
know,
do something like that.
like basically we could talk about like police brutality and like backing the blue and like how like
Yeah,
it would be so cool, and like you could do that. You can do it on so many different topics. It's amazing. You can almost retransform society with your own videos that basically bring the truth to where the silence is.
for real.
Yeah.
Yo, Chaz, this is what because you're right, and Chaz is right too. This is what media is about: discussing
Mhm.
things that actually matter, discussing things that we need to talk about, that people agree with and understand and hear, and that everyone can agree on. Not something that is party based or ideal based. It's something that we can all agree on, and that is one thing. Going back to feudalism, that they had the main things that united them: food, shelter, security, land. Those are the things they needed. And they were provided those things, so it was easy for them to unite against a different front or against a different set of people that were coming in and harming them.
Independent media is like media that everyone can tap into, and not just media that like you're given and you can't interact
Yeah,
with the broadcaster with. Yep, that's exactly what independent media is, where everyone has a say, all by the people for the people. That should be like
exactly.
the motto of independent media.
For real. It is. At least for us here at the Leon Block, it's important. And I want to let y'all know again and reiterate, and I say this every episode, but you are the media and you are welcome here anytime. You can reach out to us, email us at theleonblock@gmail.com. You can text us at 484-909-0873. You can DM us at the Leon Block page on Facebook, or shout us out on YouTube, comment on one of our posts. Y'all already know this is what we do. We're a grassroots independent media network by the people, and we seek to fill the gaps that mainstream media doesn't talk about, or that news deserts can't cover because they exist. You know what I mean? We're pro black, we're pro socialist, we're pro
Fighters
people,
for truth.
pro human. What's that?
Fighters for truth.
Exactly. Warriors for truth, warriors for liberation.
Yes.
We cover everything from police brutality and human rights to environmental issues and and racism, and even more than that. We cover all kinds of things: workers' rights, healthcare, in a way that the mainstream media is not ever going to, because that's what they're there for, to exist, to propagandize and deflect. We are everything that they are not. So if you want to live a better life, or you want to be informed or understand or grow as a person, or even just know what the hell's actually going on and get the fucking truth, or know how other people feel, this is the place for you.
Yes. All the controversial news you hear about in the news, this is a place that you can talk about it and understand it from a clearer lens. Independent media, support it.
That's right, y'all. All right, it's time for us to get out of here. Yo, Matt, I really thank you for such an engaging conversation. It's a pleasure always having you on the show. You are a good friend to the Leon Block. And of course, we got to have you back on soon. I would love for you to be a guest on Revolution News Link because we do have an episode coming up soon giving y'all the world news around the world. But as y'all know, I thank y'all for rocking with me.
All power to the people.
All power to the people. Make sure you meditate on your path, celebrate your being, liberate your spirit, and educate yourself. I'm Jontel. Have a good one.
Later.
Looking to advertise your business to a diverse and conscious audience? Are you looking to give back to your community or have your voice heard? The Leon Block is looking for you. We want to provide people and small businesses with more traffic while connecting more people from all backgrounds, as well as integrating viewers more into what we do. Community is everything. Will you join us in helping build a better community? The Leon Block Independent Media Group is a grassroots independent media platform by the people seeking to fill the gaps news deserts have created. Left and socialist leaning, we are pro-black, and we cover stories of police brutality, human rights, environmental issues, racism, and more in a more in-depth way that the mainstream can't, won't, and doesn't provide. Our mission is to change the way citizens look at media, to embolden everyone to take part in politics and become an integral and active part of their community, to enrich all of our lives, and to combat racism. We focus on police-involved cases and incidents of racism, spirituality, world issues and news, history, music and art, environment, and many more. The Leon Block Independent Media is a network providing press, arts, and other media and resources aimed to better reconnect the most oppressed. We run daily web shows through social media, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and post information about current events or simple memes to make you think. We try to target different audiences, and we do not censor anyone as we seek to provide truth that mainstream media does not. Check out our websites. You can also reach out to us via email or text. And if you'd like to reach out for more information or more information on our sponsorship opportunities as well, please hit us up through text at 484-909-0873. Hope to hear from you.